Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. You who are one and alone, you who contain all there is, you who created all there is, you who are the master of all there is, of all the universes, of all of creation, we give our pledge to you to surrender to you and to give our will over to you. It is our intention, O Lord, to find you and to intermingle with you. It is our intention to unself ourselves so that we can get to understand and know who you are. This is the intention that all of us have made, and we ask you to fulfill that intention and help us on this path towards you. Bring us closer and closer to you. Help us intermingle with your qualities. Bring about the union that we all seek. Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. This notion of unity with the Creator is at the core of understanding this path. We remember that when Bawa would speak, when he was finished, sometimes he would say, "When I am here, God is not here. And when God is here, I am not here." Indicating, of course, that when he left this realm and went into the other realms, he was overwhelmed by the unity of being and overwhelmed by Allah. We should understand this. We should understand that part of the work that we are doing is to be able to rid ourselves of ourselves, to unself ourselves. This is the great, difficult work that we are involved in. We live a lifetime, no matter how old we are, we live a lifetime when we have spent all of our time taking care of this self, bringing this self into the forefront of things, working with this self, having this self be brought higher and higher and higher, trying to gain praise for this self, trying to avoid blame for this self. And then we meet a teacher, and the teacher tells us, all of this self stuff is false. All of this understanding about who you are is false. All of this understanding about what you need to accomplish is false. All of the things that you learn from the world are temporary and illusory and only have a very slight significance in your existence. The truth of your existence is that you were created by Allah, and He created you to know you. He created you out of His desire to be known and to know. So He created a creature called Insan that had within it all that is in creation. And then He intermingled Himself with us. He blew a breath into us. He put a soul into us. Imagine the Creator of all the universes intermingled Himself with us, and within us. The creator of all the universes is so involved with each and every one of us that he guides us through our entire life. He says to us, I have tried to show myself to you, but you have not seen me. I have sent fragrances for you, but you have not smelled me. I have sent food for you, but you have not tasted me. Don't you understand that I am within everything? Don't you understand that everything that you see and touch and hear and smell, I am within it? Now, we can't see him with these eyes, and we can't smell him with this nose or taste him with this tongue. But if we intermingle with him, then we can see him through his own eyes. We can see him through the eyes of grace. We can intermingle with him through the grace that he affords us by coming into us and by mingling with us. And in that way, he gives us a greater treasure than anything that we can get from this illusory world, from anything in this world that we trample through and try to make meaning of. We can spend a lifetime studying the world and accomplish nothing. But if we spend a moment every day studying our Lord and trying to come at union with our Lord, more and more and more, we will begin to understand truth. Now, it's interesting that much of what it is that we have to know isn't available through books. It's said that a donkey with a cargo of books on it, holy books, is still a donkey. So no matter how many books we have, it's not about the books. It's about who we have become. And the place where real knowledge occurs happens in silence. There are levels that we need to reach that can only happen in silence. When within the first week or two that I met Muhammad Rahim Muhaiyaddeen, he said to me, stop reading books. Don't even read my books. You have me, and that's sufficient for you. And he explained that the kind of teaching that is done by the sheikh or the guru, the live teaching, has a life to it that interacts with you and can direct you in a certain direction. He pointed at the fireplace in his house when he was talking, and he said, "What's that?" And everybody said, "It's a fireplace." And he said, "No, it's a finger. And you miss the finger for the direction that it points." And he says, that's the problem with books. They can't steer you while they're pointing you. They can't steer you while they're teaching you. And that's why you need to be with somebody who can explain and show directly what needs to be shown. And we have to begin to separate from us that which is not godly and integrate with us that which is godly. And we have to be able to know the difference. So as we begin this path, and as we begin to learn the way on this path, we learn that the first thing we need to know is we have to know the difference between right and wrong. You can't walk towards Allah, integrate yourself with Allah, if your behavior is outside of the bounds of what Allah has prescribed. We have to be able to act in a certain way and act in a way that is within that which Allah has indicated we are allowed to do. There are certain foods we are allowed to eat and certain foods we aren't allowed to eat. There are rules and regulations for living within the dunya and acting within the dunya. And this is the first step. And if we can't accomplish this step, we cannot take further steps. Of course, we can think that we can take further steps, but this is the delusion that the mind puts us in, and the hypnotism that and torpor that the mind puts us in to make us think that we can set up our own rules and regulations as to our actions and yet move towards Allah. Sufis talk about becoming lovers, about becoming true devotees of Allah and lovers of all of Allah and all of His creation. Well, love does not stand alone as an independent entity. Love is intermingled with everything that you do. You can't do certain things and call yourself a lover. You can't cheat in business and call yourself a lover. You can't denigrate people and call yourself a lover. You can't be prejudiced towards people and call yourself a lover. One of the basic rules is that Allah created all of us, and if we are truly going to love, we have to be able to love all of us without distinction, without reference to race or religion, without reference to color or ethnicity, without reference to language or country. We have to love everyone. And unless we can do that, then we haven't reached the state where our love is pure. And without love, we can't move towards Allah. So we have to be able to love humanity in order to be able to love Allah. One can't happen without the other. We can't dislike humanity and say, well, our attention is only on Allah. We don't involve ourselves with the creation. Well, we are part of the creation, and we need to love that creation. Allah has loved that creation. So how can we not love that creation? Allah created man out of His love. So how can we not love man? Love is the water that makes us grow. And it creates a heart that's on fire. Now, this is something that we have to give some thought to, and we have to have some understanding about. What does it mean that the heart is on fire? It means that our desire for the Creator has become very, very great. And it pulses within us to the extent that it overwhelms everything else that we think or do, that it is strong enough to overwhelm the constant attempt by the mind to interfere with us and to bring our nafs back, our lower self back into the forefront of our being. This fire is so powerful that it burns away all of the illusory temptations that we encounter and that we fall into. Now, the two analogies are very dissimilar. We say love is the water that makes us grow, yet the heart, when this love happens, the heart begins to burn. The heart turns into fire. Well, when water and fire get along, it's a different universe. When water and fire get along, it's an understanding that is beyond the understanding of this illusory world. It takes us to a place that separates us from illusion, that puts us into a realm that is beyond science, that is beyond understanding in the terms of what we'll call Newtonian physics, for a better word. It puts us into another realm entirely. And we have to understand that that's where we are trying to go. We are trying to go to another realm entirely. And in the same way that when I was with my teacher, he taught me, and I was in a state of non-judgmental silence. And because I was able to enter into that state of non-judgmental silence, I was able to hear him, and what he said was able to penetrate me. We should know that this teaching continues to go on, whether the sheikh is with us physically or not. In the vastness of space, all knowledge exists. In the vastness of this creation, all knowing exists. And if we can get ourselves to a state of silence that's not judgmental, that isn't involved with the mind's critique, and we allow ourselves to be open, knowledge will come to us, understanding will come to us in our silence. Things that can't be explained in words can be explained only in silence. So we should know that there's a whole other way to understand things. There's a whole other way to know things that is beyond the realm of normal learning in the way that we do it in the world. In the world, you sit in front of a classroom, or you sit in a classroom in front of a teacher, and he talks at you. He reiterates for you what's written in the book that's in front of you, and tries to emphasize it somehow so that it'll stick with you. But personal experiences with the realm of truth that enter you when you are in a state of silence that's non-judgmental are greater than anything you can read or you can learn from books. That overwhelming experience that can come to you when you're in silence is something that will last with you forever, in the same way that the Sheikh's words, if you are open to them, are imprinted on your being. They will last with you forever. Talking about imprinting, something just came to mind. After about a year of being with the Sheikh, we came to his house. This was still before this is about 1972, sometime late. And we came into his room, and we were the only ones there. My wife and I and a couple of people who I brought with me. And he took his forefinger and he wrote on my forehead. And he wrote on my wife's forehead. And the people I brought with me, he wrote on their forehead also. And he told us he was writing La ilaha illallah on our foreheads, so he would always recognize us. Now, that's an interesting point. Not only that he would recognize us so that we would be known as his, but it was La ilaha illallah that makes us recognizable, not our faces, not our personalities, not who we've created in this world. What makes us recognizable to the truth is La ilaha illallah. What makes us knowable to the Sheikh is La ilaha illallah. That internal coming into reality, wherein we have given up the illusory world and taken on the realm that is all-encompassing, taken on the qualities that are all-encompassing, taken on the grace of the truth, the justice of reality. When we have left behind that which is temporary and that which is illusory, and opened ourselves up to that which is eternal and has no end. To do this, we need to contemplate in silence on the grandeur of our Lord. And we have to spend some time doing that. We have to close our eyes, become still, sit in a chair or sit on the floor, and contemplate the nature of the unity of all existence. One of the amazing things that you can do sitting still with your mind closed, with your eyes closed, with your mind shut off a little bit, is to go anywhere where you had been previously in your lifetime. You can flash into all of those instances. You can flash back into every single moment of your existence. I can be sitting in this chair, or I can be in front of Bawa, or I can be at the Kaaba, or I can be in Medina, or I can be in Florence, or Rome, or Turkey, or anywhere that I have been. This ability to travel quickly throughout our known universe is really quite easy. Well, let's also imagine that we can travel throughout the entire universe, even though we haven't been in those places. All of it is within us, and all of it can come before us. All of it can become known to us. But to do that, we have to take on a different persona. We have to be able to be rid of our limited self. And the limited self disappears, dissipates when we give up our attachment to it and our need to satisfy its desires and the things that it wants. When we are able to detach from all of the tentacles that it puts out into us and into the world, all of the needs that it is constantly interacting with. When we can break ourselves loose from all of these things, we can enter into realms that are higher than our attachments. Unattached, the ability to detach and to go to the realms that are beyond the senses of our physical body is part of what we need to strive for and intend. If we are going to know our Lord, we can't be knowing ourself. We can't exist simultaneously at one time. Bawa said, when I am here, God is not. And when God is here, I am not. So we have to practice I am not. La ilaha, only God exists. Ilallahu, I am not. Only God exists. I am not. So we have to become comfortable with I am not. Now, one of the things that we should know is that since all of creation is within us, there also exists within us, to an extent, the non-believer and the opposite of what it is that we want to know. We have to get hold of that non-believer inside of us, and we have to understand what is it that makes that non-believer the way that that non-believer is. Because if we don't find the non-believer, he will always be within us, and the notion that we have cleansed ourselves entirely will be an illusion, and it won't be real. So we need to also find the non-believer within us, and we have to find out why it acts the way it acts and what makes it the way it is. Where does our skepticism come from? Where does our doubt come from? And how do we rid ourselves of that skepticism and doubt? How do we rid ourselves of all of the reasoning that goes on within this critic of our being that says, I don't believe? Where does that come from within us? If we don't look at that, we can't get the whole picture of who we are, and we can't see all of the work that we have to do. Until we get to the point of being insan kamil, a true human being who has lost the self, we have to find all the parts of the self that need to be done away with. The word is that if you know yourself, you will know Allah. If you begin to understand the nature of your own ego, and you can dismantle that, then you begin to know Allah. But we have to know how all of these things work. And it's very subtle and it's very intricate. And it'll only be understood if you can go to that place of silence and enter into that place where the teaching can come directly to you from the resonance in the universe. This resonance never stops. The Ketub never goes away. The teacher is always with you. We need to let the teacher within us, and we need to let the teacher teach us, even though we don't stare at the manifestation. So to believe that the teaching can only go on with the manifestation is a false belief. When the prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, passed, there were those who said the prophet is dead. But there were also those who said the prophet does not die. And when we can begin to understand the eternal nature of the prophet, the eternal nature of the Ketub, the eternal nature of reality, then we will also understand that there is more than meets the eye. There's more to be seen than these eyes can see. But to see those things, we need to have an internal sense of seeing, an internal sense of hearing and smelling and tasting. We need to have an internal sense that also is able to sense reality and sense the truth and sense the resonance that surrounds all of us. You know, there are people who read auras, and they say that each of us gives off an aura, and certain people can see it. Certain machines can pick up these auras. Well, if we sit still, we can feel the resonance that surrounds us. We can feel the aura that surrounds us. We can feel the universe that surrounds us, that is inside of us and outside of us. And it's all part of one great unified field. When the scientists try to measure the electrons around an atom, they found that the electron from one atom could be on the other side of the world than we are simultaneously. That these electrons don't have a tiny field, they have an overwhelmingly wide field. This is going on in us all the time. We're not conscious of it going on, but it's going on. We are much, much bigger than we can ever imagine. And the way to begin to understand that greatness is through becoming small. Now, isn't that interesting? To be able to enter into the realm of that which is all of the universes, we have to become very small. And what that means is that this egocentric being has to become very small so that the greatness of us can be seen, because this egocentric being overwhelms the truth in us and creates veils so that we don't see the truth in us, creates veils that hide the truth from us. So only when we become very, very small and give up our attachment to our ego, to our anger, to our self-worth, to our celebration of who we are, can we begin to celebrate who Allah is. Bawa would say things like, I am the smallest, most discarded creature in all of the universe. Well, we knew that he was something other than that. But what he meant was that his physical being was not of value. What was of value was the resonance of the truth that he was connected to. And we need to understand that this physical being is only a temporary manifestation. And if we treat it as something different, we have made a major mistake in our life. Rumi talked about what is the great mistake that man makes. And he responded that he has been loaned this body and he thinks he owns it. He has been loaned this bag of bones and he thinks that's who he is. And because of that egocentricity that believes that lie, we begin to age and we begin to lose our strength, so that we can be brought back into focus as to what is true and what is not true. And what is not true is that we live forever. What is not true is that we own this self. What is not true is that this self somehow continues to go on. And our faces over time show us the truth. Wrinkles happen, sags occur. Why? Because this is fading away right before our eyes. So what do? Instead of turning to God, we go to plastic surgeons. We try to somehow change the nature of what is happening to us as if it were going to alter reality. Face creams. It's a big industry. It's billions of dollars because people try to do away with that which is inevitable. We need to understand that which is inevitable. We need to understand the truth, and we need to be able to let go of holding on to all of the ideas that we have gathered throughout our life that keep this egocentric monster in place, this egocentric ruler that thinks it can control things, this egocentric narcissist who has fallen in love with himself. We need to change this self-love for God's love. We need to change this self-involvement for God involvement. And the way that we do it is through becoming silent and letting go of everything that we know, of all of our ideas and all of our assumptions as to the world, and then let the truth enter us so that we can know the real answer to things. Let the truth enter us so that we can integrate with reality as opposed to being integrated with illusion. Ya Allah, take us to reality. Let us see and understand what is the truth. Take us to the very nature of existence. Let us understand how and why you created us. Let love grow within us, integrated with all of your other qualities, so that we can do on this earth what we were meant to do, which is come to know you. Bring us to the place where we see you as opposed to seeing the illusion of the world. Take us to the place that you have reserved for the ones who are close to you. Take us to the place where truth is within us and outside of us. Relieve us of all of the temptations of the flesh and all of the temptations of this world. Relieve us of all of our needs and desires. Take all these things away from us and create within us only the intention to do what is right for you, to surrender to you, to understand you, to bring ourselves into your truth and your qualities. Take us to that place. This is our prayer. This is our intention. This is the path that we have set out on. We do not fear the next step. We only ask that you guide us into the next step and take us straight, straight, straight towards reality. Ameen. Ameen. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.